What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to RVA Vapes for another episode of Ask-A-Vaper. I've always wanted to hear applause after that happens, so excuse my ridiculousness, but it is another wonderful Tuesday afternoon, evening, I guess, depending on what part of the country you're in. But that being said, we are back for another episode. Second Tuesday of the month, which is tonight, the 13th. I want to wish all of our vape fam out there a happy early Valentine's Day. Make sure you take care of your loved ones and spouses, and show them how much you care. Shout out to the wifey. Love you, boo. All right, got to stay hydrated as we vape. For those of you tuning in, thank you so much for stopping by. This is our monthly educational show. What's up, Rowan? I see you. For basically, I put together some stuff that I think is important, but we encourage everybody to make sure you drop your comments in the little question chat, whatever you want to call it, because the whole purpose of this show is educational. We want to answer your questions. So please, anytime you have a question, drop it in the chat and I will answer them as quickly as I can. If I don't get to it on the show, I will go back and get to it at a later point in the next day or two. I don't know all the answers, never claim to, but I want to get you the right information. That's really what this show is all about. First and foremost, let's jump over to... Hey, Bryce, what's happening, pimp? Let's jump over to our advocacy update. I've got a couple new features in here that I'm playing with, so if something goes haywire, don't freak out. Oops, did I not do it? I didn't do it. Did I do it? Yeah, I did do it. Okay. Boop, 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 boop. Bam. So, advocacy update starts out with this lawsuit that was filed by, where does it say right here? Challenging the deeming regulations. It was filed by a group in California. Damn it, I just had the thing. Is this it? Here we go. Pacific Legal Foundation. There it is right there. Bam. Filed a lawsuit in 3 different jurisdictions, basically saying these regulations don't just harm small business and consumers, they undermine constitutional safeguards for individual liberty. That's some fancy talk right there. Rules that affect the American people must be issued by officials who are answerable to the political process, not the bureaucrats who have no political accountability. I've always kind of said that. I think they're on a good track with this particular argument. Where is it at? There we go. Right here, this section. How far they're going to get with it has yet to be seen, but this was just filed on the 23rd of last month. And then it goes on to say down here, the vaping edict flouts the First Amendment by focusing businesses to run a daunting regulatory gauntlet in order to advertise truthful information, which is another good point. There was some stuff in the deeming regulations put out about how we're not allowed to reference certain medical peer-reviewed studies, which by most counts are facts, and we're not allowed to tell those to our customers anymore, which is kind of funky. But there's also this part: the government can't require pre-approval for truthful speech. It especially can't shift the burden of proof to the speaker to prove the benefits of his speech without weighing any harm on the government perceives may result. That kind of confuses me. Burden of proof to the speaker to prove the benefit of his speech will outweigh any harms the government perceives may result. That's some lawyerese right there for you. But that's the gist of it. You can see here, Minnesota, Texas, in the District of Columbia is where these suits were filed. FDA cold display of power in regulating the small independent vaping industry certainly checks all the PFL's boxes. So that's the lawsuit and their argument. I guess it says something up here about NicoPure. That's what the PFL filed their same suit as the other advocacy thing we're going to talk about here in a minute. But in the District of Columbia, they're just saying it filed in the same place. No big deal. So that's interesting. We've also got this little piece right here in our advocacy update. Now this is a new study right here that was published January 23rd, so about 2 weeks ago, from the American, what's the jiggy? Here we go. National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine. Sounds pretty legit, right? So what they say is this piece right here. Their studies basically saying the bottom line for the American public is the main conclusion of this report are consistent with those reached by respected excuse me, organizations like the Royal College of Physicians and Public Health of England. Imagine that. A non-profit, independent scientific body came to the same conclusion as all the other countries that are saying this is not necessarily the demon devil child that the FDA is trying to make it out to be. The committee's findings fall in line with Scott Gottlieb's nicotine strategy. A key element involves smokers switching to lower risk products. Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner. Tell him what he's won, Johnny. The ability to vape in America, apparently. So there's some other interesting stuff, and both these articles are up on Vaping 360, which is a good page for information. They tend to do a pretty good job in their little Vape Life section here. I just go to Vape News, as you can see. Let's continue that. And you've got all kinds of different stories here. Also, just a little tidbit. I don't know how many of you guys out there are into the CBD thing, or any shop owners that may be selling CBD. If you haven't heard about this, the what was it? The state police and the DEA and the FBI raided 23 stores in Tennessee yesterday and shut them all down. This little piece right here, very interesting indeed. Of course, there's already some stuff going on with that as far as legal type things. So there's already some people that are pushing back against that, which is interesting. But it's one of those things you definitely want to. I personally like to know that kind of stuff, just because it says what I've been saying all along. The companies that are selling this CBD stuff, trying to sell it to like shops like us or you as a consumer, claim it's 50 state legal. Then why is the FBI putting padlocks on people's vape shops? I don't know. I'm going to be watching that closely to see what happens, because we've definitely thought about the CBD thing as an option for our store here at RVA Vapes, but we're still on the fence about it, and this kind of reinforces the fact that my intuition was right. Be that as it may, there's one other piece of advocacy news that I do want to get to, because it's very important. The quote-unquote $1 million lawsuit that a couple of different vape manufacturers that make e-liquids got together and kind of pooled their resources, like NicoPure and Lost Art Liquids. Shout out to you guys out on the West Coast. Filed a lawsuit against the FDA, and they finally started hearing oral arguments on the 23rd. And basically, what this lawsuit is going after is they want the FDA to release all the documentation that they used to come up with this deeming regulation, which went into effect August 8th of 2016, to see what kind of information they base this decision off of, essentially, so that they can try to counter argue whatever their findings were based on this information, or to see what the sorry Bryce, I'm reading your question here, I'll get to that in 2 seconds, or to see what information they may have used to kind of bend the truth a little bit. Not saying that the government lies to us or anything like that. I would never say that on video, but they just want the information. It's kind of like the Freedom of Information Act, or if any of you are familiar with the legal system, it's due process, where you get the prosecutor gets all the defense's evidence and the discovery. That's what it's called. And then the defense gets all the prosecutor's evidence. So that way everybody has the same information and they can all look at it from, whatever their point of view game plan is. So good question, Bryce. CBD, for those of you that aren't familiar, it's I don't know how to pronounce the actual word for it. Let me see if I can get it. I'm sure it's in this article somewhere. Here we go. Cannabinoid. Cannabidiol. Cannabidiol. Cannabidol, something like that. But essentially what that is, by my best understanding, is part of an oil extract that they're getting from hemp, or in some cases marijuana plants, that has studies showing that excuse me, has some medicinal properties. I know a lot of the salespeople and stuff that I've talked to that work for some of these companies have said it's good for everything from anxiety to appetite, resurgence. It's when you hear stories about like children that have seizures or cancer patients getting positive results from like marijuana treatment, or like cannabis type treatments, or extracts, 9 times out of 10 this is what they're talking about, is that CBD component. It's supposedly non-psychoactive, but I think part of that depends on how the extract is actually how it's extracted, for lack of a better term, or what it's extracted from, maybe is a better way to put it, because there's a couple of different types out there, and I'm not an expert on CBD by any means, but I do know there's a couple of different kinds. Where there's like the isolate, which is supposed to be just the cannabidiol part of the I guess molecule or family, is the best way to put it. It's supposed to be isolated from any other active ingredients. That's the isolate, if you will. And they also have what's called spectrum. And spectrum is a little bit less defined. And I typically understand it to mean that it's got a little bit more extra ingredients going on. Not necessarily less pure per se, but just has more things in it. It's not as condensed or virgin, if you will. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but that's most of what I know about CBD. I do know that there is a like 0.03, 0.04 tolerance, so sometimes it actually can have THC in it, which is the tetrahydrocannabinoid. That's the active psychoactive ingredient in marijuana that makes you feel high. So there is a threshold that they do allow for that. And I don't know if that's like the argument that the FBI and the DEA were using to go after this shop in Tennessee's. But it's another one of those things where this is going to go back and forth for a while, and it has been. But if you do have any of the problems or things, or are interested in something like that, I do know we've had a couple of customers that come in here for their vape stuff that have said that they've tried it for a number of various reasons. I know we've had a couple of fibromyalgia patients that have said they've used it. Again, this is just their experience. I personally have no experience with it, so I can't really say one way or the other if it's effective or not. But it's definitely worth looking into if it's something that interests you. And there's plenty of places that you can buy it, like online. I think there's even a few places around here in Richmond that sell it. If you want to know who it is, just swing by the shop and talk to me, or Alan knows a lot about everything, so he could probably help you out with some information on that. Bryce, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a vaping alternative to weed as much as it's supposed to be like a herbal supplement of sorts. That's kind of how I view it, as more of like a supplement category item. But there are companies that make their e-liquid with the CBD extract instead of putting nicotine in it. And then there's also companies that just make the CBD extract in a VG base, so you can add it to your vape. Nobody's going to outright tell you that you're supposed to add it to your vape. It's supposed to be like tincture, which is like a couple drops under the tongue. And it probably is more effective that way. The few people I've talked to that have put it in their vapes said it doesn't taste real great. But, you know, if that's something that you're more into, I would definitely do a little bit more research than what I know about it, because obviously I don't know much about it. Before I carry on too far, the last thing I want to mention for our advocacy is that, does everybody, I don't know how many of you guys are aware of the Cole Bishop Amendment, but that was an amendment to change the said predicate date, which is the date that the deeming regulation put in place, which is 2007. And the Cole Bishop Amendment is supposed to be changing if it gets passed, it would change that predicate date from 2007 to 2016, I believe. So anything that was on the market prior to 2016 would be grandfathered in, which means any of those products would not have to go through the very expensive pre-market application or pre-market tobacco application process. So this is something that we've given a lot of time to and worked with different groups to try to let our elected officials and representatives, as you know, business owners know. But we also try to inform all of our customers here that this is something, if you're for vaping and you think and you like vaping, you should definitely call or email your elected officials and let them know that they should pass this as well. So Cole Bishop was a couple years ago. Sorry about that. But there is some similar wording that is still in the House version of the appropriations bill for this year. And that may sound like Chinese, but the simplest way to think about it is the bill that they've been fighting over on Capitol Hill for the last like 3 or 4 weeks about the government being funded. I don't know why I keep doing air quotes. Is that weird? I think that's kind of weird. I'm going to stop doing that. Every time they talk about they need to get X, Y, and Z passed so that the government can get funded, this is the bill that they're referring to, the appropriations bill. It's basically like the bill for all of the, basically to write checks to all these organizations and groups of government officials and workers so that they know they're going to get paid for the rest of the year, type of thing. And the rider, which is a piece that kind of gets tacked on to the end, kind of like pin the tail on the donkey, but the bill is the donkey. All these people say, you know, I'll vote for it if you put this in there for my, you know, county, state, whatever, voting district. So everybody and their mom tries to tack stuff onto this thing because they know that bill has to get passed before X date. And if the rider gets tacked onto that bill passes, it passes with all the riders attached to it. This is commonplace apparently in Washington from what I've been told. But one of the riders that's tacked onto there is this changing of the predicate date to 2016. And in the House version, it is still attached to this appropriations bill. So if you're sitting here saying, what does this mean to me? I'm about to tell you. What this means to you guys is you want to, between now and whenever this bill is supposed to be voted on, which I think is in the next week, if not sooner, you want to get on the horn to your elected official and let them know you support this. Because if you want to continue to vape and continue to have innovation in this industry, then we have to make sure that the predicate date gets changed. So please contact your local representatives, whether it's congressman, senator, it doesn't really matter, but let them know that you support this and that they in turn should support it too. Because that's really the only way that we can even start to begin at chipping away at this FDA process that's coming down the pike. And it's been extended a couple of times from a paperwork side on, you know, the industry, but it's not going to be pushed back much longer. So we really need to stay on top of this and make sure that they don't take vaping away from us in the next couple of years. So that's all the boring stuff out of the way. And you're very welcome, Bryce. That's what we do this show for, so that if you has questions, I hopefully has answers. The next thing I want to talk about is, I used to call what grinds my gears, but we've now changed it to sound a little bit less aggro, and we're going with common misconceptions. So, one of the biggest common misconceptions in vaping, or one of the best questions I get all the time, and shout out to Brucey Boo Boo for giving us this question, is, will this liquid burn up my coils? Now, the answer to that depends on a couple of different factors. But the main factor is, what flavors are you vaping? Because different flavors definitely affect coils in different ways. Sorry, I had to have a little vape there. I hope that wasn't too loud on your end, because it's loud as hell in here. So I put together a very childlike picture to illustrate as easily as I can what you would want to look out for. If you're vaping stuff and you're only getting 2 or 3 days on coils, could it be the juice? Well, this should help you answer that question. You see the little packets of sweeteners in there. If it's a very, very sweet juice, chances are it's burning up your coils. If it's a cinnamon flavor, chances are it's burning up your coils. If it's a very rich and savory, desserty, sweet frosting topped this, that, and the other, chances are it's probably burning up your coils. And the last two are the ones that are probably the least obvious to most people, because they think a fruity flavor is going to be easier on our coils, because typically they are. But if it's a heavy citrus flavor, like a pineapple or an orange or a lemon or a lime, chances are it's probably burning up your coil. So, our little common misconception of the week, or of the month rather. So, when I've been told that one of people's biggest pet peeves when they go into a vape shop is they'll ask whoever's working behind the counter, how's that juice on my coils? And 99% of the time, what's the answer they get? Oh, it's not too bad. It's about the same, about average. That's not necessarily the best response. The other part of the reason we do this show is that if you happen to go to a vape shop or like a vape shop that doesn't necessarily have the best information, maybe you could watch this show and help them out, or tell them to tune into the show and we can help them out too. But at the end of the day, if you're going to a vape shop and you're asking the guy behind the counter how the juice is going to affect your coils and he doesn't really have an answer for you, you might want to find a new vape shop, because that's a pretty easy question to answer. Unless the juice came in like in the past 2 or 3 days, somebody there should be able to tell you how it's going to work on your coils. If it's going to, have a hard break-in, or if it has dry hit situations, or if it burned out your coil in 2 days, it doesn't take long to figure out if the juice is going to be murder on your coils or not. But as a general rule, what I try to tell people is, the sweeter it is, the spicier it is as far as like cinnamons and stuff like that, or the more acidic it is, the worse it's going to be on your coils. There are outliers, as with everything. Not everything fits into that perfect little box there. But for a general rule, that's kind of the way I go by it. So if you're having problems keeping your coils working for more than a couple days, definitely look into that. Every tank or dripper does have its own personality, so it could, excuse me, it could have something to do with your setup that you're running or the power that you got it set on. But overall, I would say that juice can definitely be one of the biggest factors, and a lot of people don't think about that, because they're like, oh, it's designed to go in my tank, therefore it should work fine. And that's not necessarily always the case. And there are people that are cool with that. We have quite a few customers that come in here and buy Betty from Pinup, and it's a really good fruit cocktail mixture kind of flavor, a little bit on the sweet side, but all kinds of different stuff going on there. Depending on the temperature you vape it, you get different, parts of the flavor jump out at you. But as a rule, we always tell them that stuff's pretty bad on coils. So if you're buying, a 60 ml bottle of Betty, you better have at least 2 or 3 coils to be able to get through that bottle. Otherwise, you're going to be back here in a couple days looking for a couple of coils, and you still got a half a bottle of juice. Some people are cool with that. They just really dig the flavor, and that's fine if that's the flavor that does it for you. But I think it's only fair to tell them up front that, hey, if you only got 1 coil, you ain't going to be able to make it through this bottle without tasting some grossness. So that's my little pro tip, common misconception of the week. God, I cannot stop coughing. All right. That's done. Type of wire can affect the way the coils perform, Rowan. That is a good point. I typically look at the type of wire a little bit more for how the flavor is going to come off than the way or how long the coil is going to last. But that is a good point. Stainless steel tends to be a little bit longer lasting than like your Kanthal and even your nichrome to an extent. But if you're not building your own coils, then a lot of times you don't really have much of an option. Most companies make 1, maybe 2 different materials of wire in their pre-made coils. But if you do have the option, knowing which one of those would work better for that particular flavor or on that particular device is a good thing to know, or at least ask. Where am I? So, I was gonna talk about my new favorite tank right over here, but I got the weeks mixed up on the video, and we actually just published the review that we did for this Blitzen tank. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse, if you will, but if you haven't checked it out, on our YouTube page here, you can click subscribe and you can look at our lists, or you can just go to the videos page and you'll see a review tutorial for this Blitzen tank here. And if you're in the market for an RTA, it's a pretty damn good one on flavor. We also have a coupon code on our website if you're watching from somewhere else in the internets. So check out the video if you want a coupon code. You can get 10% off this Blitzen tank by watching the video and writing the code down. Ooh, that's tasty. So that will bring us into our next segment here, which is called What's New at RVA Vapes. I wish I had theme music. I need to work on that. I need to do something about that. I want some cool theme music for each one of these little segments, if you will. But yeah, so whoa, I hope we're still live and direct. Okay, that's cool. Sorry, little technical glitch here. Everything just went black on me. Hopefully you're still there, but I'm gonna go ahead with my spiel. So in the last couple of weeks, we've got a couple of new goodies and gadgets here. What I was referring to when I hit my Blitzen tank here was actually this Sad Boy Key Lime cookie. That's what's in this tank right now. And this guy is made by the same people that did the butter cookie, and this is their highly anticipated second release. It's a really, really good key lime cookie. It's got a very like creamy, subtle key lime to it, with a cookie in the front and then that creamy key lime pie-ish meringue in the back, but it's balanced almost perfectly. When I originally tried it, I was kind of disappointed because it was a little bit mellow. But the more I vape it, the more I realized they did that on purpose, because if it was a little more upfront and in your face, you'd probably get sick of it too quickly. Whereas this, you can see I got this 100 ml bottle less than a week ago, and it's pretty much done. I think I got it last Thursday when I was working, and I pretty much killed it. Pretty much killed. Man, I cannot stop coughing. I'm sorry, guys. Pretty much killed it this weekend. Cookie, key lime. Very nice, very nice. If you like desserty, fruity mixtures, or if you like anything citrusy or lime, Ripe Vapes used to do a really good key lime cookie. I would venture to say that this one's right up there with it. I don't know if it's better per se, but it's pretty darn close. I almost slipped up and said the F-bomb there. Sorry about that. Jiminy Christmas, this thing is not doing what I want it to do tonight. There we go. So, that's the first new goodie, and it is in 100 ml bottles. Come on down and grab some if you haven't tried it. We've also got a new arrival coming on Thursday, and that is the Maze RDA. This thing in the middle is very, very interesting to me. I'm going to give you a little blow up so that you can possibly see what's going on there. So it's an RDA, and those two pins that you see under the ohm and the BF, that's your two different options. They've got a regular straight pin, and then they've got the bottom feeding or squonk pin, so it is squonkable, which is nice. You can see all the little parameters there, but the picture at the bottom is really what I want you to focus on, because that little silver thing under those two pins, or under those two pins, is actually the coil. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with the new Revo tank that Aspire came out with. We did a review for that a couple weeks ago, and we're actually going to do our drawing tonight to give that thing away. Don't think I forgot about you. But it's got a similar type of, it's almost like a flat or a radial notch coil, if you will. Very good flavor, great vapor production. The airflow on the Revel is a little bit overpowering, I think, personally. So I had to choke it down a little bit to get the best part of the flavor out of it. But this is utilizing that same style coil. And the coolest part about the way it's set up is underneath the coil, down under those O-rings, you've actually got a 2 milliliter juice well down there. So you've actually got an RDA with a tank built into it that uses those notch coils. So you don't even have to build it. You just drop that coil in there, squirt some juice on the bad boy, and fill up that reservoir right through the center chimney part, kind of like the Alpine from Synth Cloud, and vape it away. You know, it's I think they come with a 0.2 and a 0.3 version of that coil. And you can see there it's rated from what, 50 to 100, but it's recommended between 70 and 80. I found the Revo with about half airflow at 80 watts was money, perfect sweet spot. So if you're in the market for a new flavor RDA, or just want something that's a little easier maintenance, or just want to check out the latest and greatest the vaping community has come up with, definitely stop by Thursday or Friday, because we were only able to get a few of those Maze RDAs, but we should be getting more next week, I believe. So that's the newest hardware wise. Jeez, I'm sorry about that. I bet that's loud in your ear. There are a couple of new things that were released or announced at E-Cig in California this past weekend, but I'm going to keep a lid on that for now, because we're going to be doing a little bit more research and trying to source those the best prices we can for you guys, so that they'll be as cheap as possible. And the last one, as my buddy Bryce chimed in with. Sunday Brunch in 120 ml bottles, formerly known as Mr. Brunch. So any of you fans out there of Mr. Brunch, definitely want to check out this Sunday Brunch. They actually went back to the original name. The original name for it was Sunday Brunch, and then they came out with Mr. Brunch, which was like a Max VG version of Sunday Brunch, trying to do like a single flavor line thing with a box and the whole nine. That was a really good seller for us. It's what I would consider more of a seasonal flavor. It doesn't sell as good during the hot months as it does during the cold months. But we found out that they redid it in the original formula and placed it in the 120 Chubby Gorilla bottles. And we had a few customers that were hot on our heels to get it back in for this winter season. So we did get that back in a week or two ago, I would say. And that one is Bavarian stuffed French toast with blueberry sauce. That's right, I said it. Bavarian cream stuffed French toast with blueberry sauce. So let's pull right back out here. That looks usable, I guess. I grabbed literally the random RDA that's sitting on my desk, which in this case happens to be one of my favorite, and the cotton's not terribly mangled, so we're gonna give it a whirl. And we have some right here. Sunday brunch. And you can see I've got the, what is this? I think this is a staggered staple clapped in, about 5 wraps. Comes out to a 0.12 on my little cosmonaut there. And let's go ahead and drippity drip this on here. And I'll give you my take on it here. We try a lot of juices here at RVA Vapes, believe it or not. We may not carry as many as some of the other places, but everything we carry here we have definitely thoroughly tested. And sometimes it gets to the point where I can't even remember what exactly something tastes like. I have a general idea. It's like a blueberries and cream situation. But to give you really the detailed notes that I like to imprint in my brain, so when people ask me, what does this taste like? I have something more than just what the bottle says. Yeah, that's probably not going to work at 60 watts, will it? Let's try. Well, this thing only goes up to 75, so we're going to see what it do. That's pretty tasty, as I remembered it. So that's pushing 2.7 volts, which still isn't anything to write home about, but it's enough to get the essence of the flavor, as I like to say. Oh. So you definitely get blueberry right out the gate, and it's got like a maple sweetness to it, like a maple syrup. So if you took like blueberry syrup, that's kind of the out the gate flavor. Definitely like a creamy kind of Frenchy. I remember Mr. Brunch had more, you know what, this 75 watts ain't quite doing it justice. Let's put something a little more capable on it, because I feel like I'm not quite getting the cream flavor I want out of it, and I think it's just because it's underpowered. So put it on this bad boy. Let's take her up to, I'm thinking 85. No, even more than that. That was a little too much. Let's try 110. I seem to remember that number for some reason. Yeah, definitely more of the cream at the higher temperature. Still a little too big for my britches there. Sorry, guys. There you go. So about 90, which is about 3.1, 3.2 volts in that range. A little underpowered, but that's where I like it best. You know, every flavor has that perfect balance between too hot and too cool. And for me, with Sunday brunch, it's right about 3 volts. There it is. That's the perfect balance for me. You get that blueberry on the inhale with just a hint of the sweetness from the maple syrup, and then the finish is that creamy with a little hint of like French toast, bakery kind of breadish, if you will, to round it out on the end. So you get blueberry, sweetness, creamy toast kind of deal, and that's the way I like it. You may like way more of the creamy side and way less of the blueberry, and if so, turn that sucker up. If you don't like any of the crunchy toast or any of that stuff, none of the cream, turn it down a little bit more and you'll just get straight blueberry syrup, maple sweetness. But either way, you can't go wrong. You know, this flavor has always been well liked by the community here. And so we had to bring it back for the cool season. A little bit later than we wanted to. We were trying to do it for our birthday party back in November, but the stars did not quite align for that. So, you know, we worked it out so that we can get it, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it as much as we do. I know Bryce does. And shout out to you too, Morton. If you're out there anywhere. I don't know if you do the YouTube or the technology, but I see you wearing your Mr. Brunch shirt up in the store every once in a while. And I know it's not Mr. Brunch, but it's Sunday Brunch. It's made by the same people. Sorry, I'm trying to reset the settings on this tank that I had. There we go. All right, so we are almost out of time. So the last thing I want to do is what I forgot to do last month, and we're going to give away some stuff. If you would like a chance to win any of our giveaways, we do one a month that's attached to one of our new products that we reviewed. The first one is from back in January, and that one I have totally slept on, and I apologize to anybody that thought I forgot about you. But if you subscribe to our YouTube channel and share the video somewhere, and then comment on the video, that is all you have to do to enter into our giveaways. So let's get this cracking. This is our first one, and this is our first 5 subscribers on our new YouTube channel back in January, so we want to thank you guys. Round of applause. And there is a $7 FDA fee associated with this giveaway. You also have 48 hours to claim your prize. If you don't claim your prize, then you miss out. Other than that, you must be 18 to win. We only ship in the continental United States. And there's some other legal mumbo jumbo, but it's in the video and the comments. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But let's run this jam. So we're going to do 3 randoms, and on the 3rd random, whoever's in the number 1 position is the winner. And we will post the name and try to tag you in this video comments. So let's roll the dice. Bam, bam, bam. All right. Now, for this month, we're giving away not one, but two. That's right, I said it. We're giving away two of these Freemax mesh tanks. And this is all the list of the qualified participants. And we're going to do the same thing. Same rules apply. Must be 18, blah, 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 all that good stuff. And $7 FDA fee, must claim within 48 hours. Your name will be tagged in the bottom of this video description. Third time, first two people. Ready? There's one. There's two. And three. I can't even pronounce those names, but you two are now proud owners of a Freemax mesh tank. So congratulations to you. And we're going to do this every month. We usually pick one item that we're super excited about. And when we review it, we mention in the review that we're going to be giving that junk away. We do post new reviews on our YouTube channel every Saturday. So this week, a little birdie told me that it might be about that maze thing that we were just showing. That would be pretty cool. There's also, I think, a review for the Vaporesso Switcher mod coming up. And once we get some of this new stuff coming in, Chinese New Year starts on Friday, so it is going to be a little touch and go as far as new products in the next couple of weeks, but we have a couple of cool things lined up, and there may or may not be a juice launch before the end of February. Who knows? Who knows? But unfortunately, we have come to that portion of the show where I've run out of shit on my list to talk about. So, that being said, if you have any questions, now's the time to ask them. If you want to know more about any of the things we talked about, I usually check up into about, lunchtime tomorrow. So if you're watching this at a later date, feel free to pop your question in there. It'll go to my email, and then I'll try to get back to you within the next day or two. For you guys that won, congratulations. There is, like I said, the $7 FDA fee associated with this because we're not allowed to give away free products. You do have 48 hours to claim your prize, otherwise it will be forfeited. And stay tuned. The month of February is going to be a good one. We've got some really cool stuff lined up for you guys. We've got some new juice in the works that we're going to make an announcement in the next week or two, and there's probably going to be a juice launch party to go along with that. So once we set a date, we will let everybody know through Facebook and Instagram. If you want to follow us on Facebook, it's facebook.com/ or I guess it's / technically, RVA Vapes. We are also on Twitter at RVA Vapes. And we are on Instagram at RVA Vapes as well. So check out all the socials and stuff. We also have a new review coming out this weekend. Like I said, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get the maze in time for me to give it a full walkthrough before Saturday. But if not, we'll probably have something else good coming up for you on the reviews this Saturday. We're doing another giveaway in the next week or two, but I don't know exactly what it's going to be yet. Oh, and as always, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to our channel and click the little bell so that you can get a notification every time I do one of these crazy videos. But other than that, we are here to help and answer all your questions. So if you're in Richmond or anywhere in Virginia, you bought a mod somewhere else, having problems with it, they won't help you out, come on by. Give us a call. We'll do whatever we can to help you enjoy your vaping experience. If you're watching in Florida, Montana, California, Hawaii, Japan, Korea, shout out to the Olympics, USA, USA, USA. shoot us an email, rvavapes@gmail.com, or check out our website, shop.rvavapes.com. Other than that, I don't really know that I've got a whole lot left in the tank. I actually ran a little short tonight, which is surprising because I usually talk and 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 talk. But I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. So if you guys got all your questions answered, I guess the only thing left to do is have a vape. That's extremely satisfying, I have to say. By the way, I'm still loving this mesh tank from Freemax. Tip of the hat to Freemax. You guys nailed it with this one. Everybody and their mom is jumping on board now to try to get a mesh coil in their sub-ohm tanks. I did hear that the new Baby Prince Smoke Tech tank that's coming out is going to have a mesh coil option. That should be interesting to see how that goes. Not sure. I've found that they have a tendency to take something that's great and, for lack of a better term, ruin it. So I'm curious, but not super excited to try that one. But it is supposed to be backwards compatible with all Baby Beast tanks. So if you've got a Baby Beast sitting in a drawer somewhere that you don't use, keep an eye out for that. What else? There was something else that I was going to touch on, but I can't seem to remember what it was for the life of me. Oh, I know what it is. Officially, we just want to let everybody know we did close our Southside location. But the Broad Street location here in Richmond is not going anywhere, so don't worry about that. We decided that we wanted to consolidate all of our efforts into one store to make it as good as we possibly could, due to the fact that new vape shops seem to be popping up left and right every day. But if you're on Southside and you miss us, I do apologize. It was just not sustainable long term. However, you can come to 6100 West Broad Street and get the same great service with even more selection that you're used to. So please feel free to stop by anytime. We're open 11 to 7 Monday through Saturday and noon to 5 on Sunday. So 7 days a week we are here for you. What was the last thing? I know what it was. It was that I wanted to say, if you want to smoke, that's your business. If you want to quit, you know who to call.